The Virginia Showcase is officially over, where some of the fastest kids in all of high school got together indoors for a weekend to prove who is really the best. And now that I've had time to process all of it, I have to admit I have some thoughts. Because aside from all the national records that went down in the relays, the meet basically went just about the way I expected it would before it started. The best track and field recruits in the nation are, for the most part, exactly who I thought they were. The only real exception has to be Andrew Salvadon, because him breaking a national record in the 500 and beating Quincy Wilson to do it was not on my radar, admittedly. At least not before the indoor track and field season started this year. And the real question that came to me while looking through the results is that they call it the Virginia Showcase. Notice, it is not a state championship meet or a championship of any kind. So what are we actually showcasing? As far as I'm concerned, it seems like we're showcasing who are the best track and field recruits in the entire nation. And the results proved it. So when a senior athlete like Andrew Salvadon goes out and breaks a national record on that stage, it makes the coaches at the University of South Carolina look incredibly intelligent for getting him to commit. So first I'm going to go through the results, but I'm going to explain them the way that I understand them, as the guy who does a national recruit ranking list to help determine who is really the best across every single event. Then I'm going to tell you what it really means in the eyes of a Division I coach. Because if you're at the Virginia Showcase and hoping to be in the winner's circle, I'm pretty sure that is who you wanted to impress anyway. So I apologize in advance because this video is a little bit different, because I actually care about you and I care about the sport. And if you want to get recruited at the Division I level, then I am here to help you get what you want. I just don't know how to do that without being anything else but honest with you. So here we go. You already know what Andrew Salvadon did in the 500, so there's no need for me to address it. What I will point out is that if all the fastest kids in high school get together on one track, somebody's gonna have to look slow. And if it can happen to Quincy Wilson, who is an Olympian, even for a moment, it can definitely happen to anybody else, which is what we saw through the results for just about every other race they ran. In the boys 60-meter dash, Jaden Dion Finley won the event. He's in the class of 2025 and a Georgia commit, which for the most part gets all of the fast kids that they want to come to that program. He was an 87 overall 4-star on my list entering into his senior season, so winning the Virginia Showcase is not all that surprising, especially when you look at the field of boys who were behind him. All 5 boys who finished behind him were from the class of 2025, and they were also all 4-star recruits heading into this season, except one of them. Janelle Harris was an 84, but then went on to win the 300 in the same meet. Evan Boykin was an 85, but also got 3rd in the 300, at least on the leaderboards. More on that event in a moment. Carson Edwards was an 80 overall 4-star himself, and Sean McCullum was an 88 overall 4-star. But remember, that's why we run the races. The only senior who wasn't a 4-star heading into the season was actually a 3-star at the time. It was Bryce Lofton, and he finished behind all the other boys I just mentioned. That final event was one of the closest ones that we had at the showcase, which is why I chose to break it down that much in depth. But I'm gonna rifle through a whole bunch of other results right now, because remember, the top recruits made it clear they are who we thought they were. You already know who was 1st and 3rd in the boys 300. The boy who was 2nd on the leaderboards was Jaden Horton Mims, who entered this season as a 5-star, and also was committed to Florida. So you could argue that him getting 2nd is actually a disappointment. And the boy who finished behind all of them in 4th place was Jake Odie Jordan, who was a 5-star recruit from the class of 2026, who went on to break a high school national record in a relay in the same weekend. But over on the girls' side in the sprints, things were a little bit different, because Lisa Ray proved why she's the number 2 recruit in her class. She has a really good claim to be number 1 for the class of 2026. The only reason she's not is because she didn't compete at the Olympic trials, and Elizabeth Leachman actually did. She gapped the entire field in the 200 by more than a second, and also won the 60-meter dash by more than a 10th. The girl who was behind her is Peyton Payne, who is an 84 overall 4-star from the class of 2025 and committed to Florida. And as far as Lisa Ray is concerned, even though she is a junior, she's already committed to run for the Georgia Bulldogs. Remember, I said they get almost all the fast kids to go there, at least the American ones. But Elise Cooper is also one of the best 5-star recruits in her class, which is why she was at the Olympic trials in the 200-meter dash. So it makes a whole lot of sense that in the 300, she gapped the entire field again by more than a second. For the record, she's committed to Texas now. By now you should see where I'm going with this, but bear with me because I'm not finished yet. Sophie Rambo won the girls 500, which shouldn't be that much of a surprise when you know she's an 89 overall 4-star for the class of 2026. As close as you can get to being a 5-star without actually hitting it yet. And I said yet. Cole Boone, also of the 2026 class, won the 1,000 by more than a half a second. The 5 boys behind him were all seniors. But remember, Cole Boone himself is a 5-star recruit. So that's not much of a surprise anymore. And Caroline Elliott won the mile to join them as a 2026 class winner. She was also another high-level 4-star recruit heading into the year. And the 2 girls who finished behind her were of course seniors. And then Paige Shepard won the 1,000, who's actually in the class of 2027. But the reason why that matters is because she came out of that year, her freshman year, as one of the top 5 recruits in the entire class. And in the girls' 60 hurdles, it was seniors Elisa Samuel and Taylor Cox who gapped the entire field by 1/10 and 2/10 of a second. But it was actually Taylor Cox who got the victory, which is a little bit surprising if you're just going off the ratings, because Elisa Samuel was a low 5-star heading into the year, but Taylor Cox was a high 4-star. So yeah, you can flip a coin on that. I sincerely apologize for all the events that I didn't address, because we would be here for a very long time if I went through everything. But I did have to save one performance for last. It was senior Aiden Monaster from Louisiana in the distance events. And I say it that way for a reason, because he won the mile and the 2-mile. And the reason why it matters, because he was not on my radar heading into the year. He was really just a low 4-star recruit at best, which doesn't get auto-ranked on my system initially. But now, he just beat Corbin Coombs, who is a 5-star recruit, top 10 in his class heading into the year, 2 times in a row. And it ain't like they were running slow either. They gapped the field, specifically in the 2-mile, by more than 6 seconds. But if you're new here, I want to say thank you for even making it this far into the video. And I'm Coach Rob, the founder of SCArecruiting.com, where I rank the best track and field recruits across the entire nation. And if anything that I say actually connects with you, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe. But if I don't, just let me know in the comment section, because I try to read them all. In the sport of track and field, and this is true even at the high school level, if you really want to be the best, the only way to do it is you gotta go out there and beat the best. The Virginia Showcase was an opportunity for athletes to do that. But college coaches were paying attention, which is why I had to pay attention. Because track and field recruits have been lied to for a very long time. And it's not entirely their fault, but allow me to fill you in. Even a 2-star recruit on my list will likely be winning some things at the league level, the county level, perhaps even the district or even the region. They could even qualify for state, depending on what state they're in. But the difference between the tiers, 2, 3, 4, and a 5-star recruit is very significant when you are a college coach, and here is why. Simply put, if you're a coach in a power conference and you're recruiting high school athletes, when they win, it only matters to you if you can put it in context with what you need to win at your level. They're not recruiting the athletes you already are. They're recruiting the athlete you will become in their uniform. And my recruit ranking list is designed to account for the fact that when you get in that uniform, the best athletes you're gonna see aren't just the high school athletes whom you competed with at that level. In the men's 100-meter dash at the NCAA Championships for 2024, there were 6 Olympians in that race. I'm talking about the final race, but not one of those Olympians was American. And when the race was over, every American athlete finished behind all of those Olympians in that final race. When a college coach is recruiting, they need to know, do you have the talent to compete with those athletes? The ones who won't show up on a high school national recruit ranking, at least not one for American kids. Which brings me now to my next point, because college coaches don't actually care at all where the talent is. They just want to know how to find it, and hopefully a lot of it. Thanks to the Virginia Showcase, they had one place they could look at least for a weekend, and figure out who's real and who's not. Remember, there are over 300 Division I programs in track and field alone, but most people are trying to go to the same 40 or 50 schools, the ones in the power conferences that they hear a whole bunch about. So all of those coaches specifically have a luxury that the rest of the D1 coaches don't. They get to be incredibly picky about who they're going to recruit and why. You know how fast Sha'Carri Richardson is right now, and you also know that she's an Olympic silver medalist in the 100-meter dash. But when she was in high school, she was already the fastest in her event for everybody at that level. She then came to college and won the 100-meter dash, breaking the collegiate record as a freshman. And during that same year, there were two more women whose names you probably recognize who were also freshman sprinters. Abby Steiner was one of them. She was the fastest 200-meter dash runner in high school, coming in with that class as well. So everything she did in a college uniform, specifically breaking the collegiate record, in that same event, is not that surprising. And yes, she's a world champion as well, even in a relay. But Julian Alford is the only Olympic gold medalist out of all of them. And she is not American. She never competed for an American high school and wouldn't show up on a ranking list like mine. But she was a freshman in 2019 in an NCAA championship qualifier. She chose to stay in college much longer than Sha'Carri and broke a whole bunch of records herself as a result. And when they got to the Olympic final, well, you know what happened. There was a legitimate reason why track and field recruiting has never had a legitimate national recruit ranking system for so long in history. Unlike other sports, nobody really knew how to come up with a scale on how to put all the athletes on the board and determine who is really the best. It was so hard to do, they just gave up and decided we would just look at the leaderboards and see who had the fastest PRs, which I guess is kind of helpful, but it's not really the same thing as ranking them as recruits. Because remember, Division I recruiting, especially at the highest levels, is not just about what you've already done. It's about what you're going to be able to do once you get in that uniform. And in that uniform, you've got to run with Olympians, who are also disguised as college athletes. The fastest 200-meter sprinter indoors in the NCAA right now, at least at the time I'm recording this video, is Carly Makarawu on the men's side, who was also in the Olympic final for the 200-meter dash. So yeah, you're not going to win a national championship this year in that event if you're not ready to go through him. So I created a system that admittedly is a bit harsh to smoke out who are really the best recruits in Division I, because you're competing with athletes whom you cannot even see on a high school track, because a scholarship can go to anybody, whether you're from Zimbabwe like Carly Makarawu or St. Lucia like Julian Alfred, even if they don't run in American high schools. That is why it's so hard to become a 5-star recruit on my list. You don't just have to win, you have to win and you have to win big. Winning your state is not all that impressive anymore. You gotta win your state and then some. Probably go to New Balance and win what they have over there. Perhaps even USA Juniors. Maybe even Nike Outdoor Nationals. If you do multiple in the same year, that is starting to look pretty good for you. But you're also gonna have the time to back it up in multiple events. The only way to be a 5-star with one event that you excel at is you'd have to be, hands down, the best in that event for your class. Either that, or simply just do the jailbreak like Andrew Salvadon and break a national record along the way. And I will be the first to tell you that rankings don't mean anything after the gun goes off. That's why the winners at the Virginia Showcase weren't only the athletes who had the highest ranking on a list. That's why we run the races. And we even know that some kids are going to break out every year, especially on the boys' side. There is always a low 4-star, perhaps even a 2 or a 3-star, who comes back and looking like a 5-star by the time their senior season is done. It's exactly what Drew Griffith did last year to become the top boys distance recruit by the time his senior season was over. But above all else, the reason why it's so challenging for high school track and field recruits to actually know how they stack up is because the only way to do it is you would have to be able to evaluate yourself against everybody else. How do you actually do that when everybody's not actually in the same place? And no, I'm not just talking about the Virginia Showcase anymore. Not everybody runs cross country, and definitely not everybody runs indoor track. And we know everybody doesn't run summer track. The only thing that's almost a foregone conclusion is outdoor track and field, which is why my ranking system is severely weighted to the high school outdoor track and field season. Any performance that occurs in outdoor track and field specifically before the end of the high school national championship series, because we have a whole bunch of them. We've got Nike Outdoor, USA Juniors, Brooks PR, and even New Balance. When all of those types of meets are done, I shut down the rankings and do a full-scale re-rank of everybody in the nation. I chose to use that competition window specifically to give everybody as fair a shot as I could to go out there and compete. Because if you can't do it through your high school state championship meets, as well as the high school national championship series, well, when we talk context from the eyes of a college coach, their question is always going to be, if you ran fast in the summer, how come you didn't do it earlier when everybody else was on the track? There is a reason why a lot of the best high jumpers, especially on the girls' side, aren't competing in the summer, because many of them actually play volleyball. And on top of that, so many of the top sprinters and hurlers on the boys' side also play football. So they're probably not going to do a whole lot during the summer track and field season. If you're an athlete who wasn't in the front of the race, perhaps wasn't even in the finals through the high school national championship series, goes out on the summer circuit and runs even faster, that's great and it will help your recruiting. But as far as recruit rankings go, the athletes who are already in front of you and didn't come back to run again, we don't know what they would have done had they come back to run. So we have to take it with a grain of salt when everybody's not on the track at the same time. Yet with so many fast athletes getting together on the same track, remember, somebody does technically have to look slow. That doesn't mean that they're not a Division I caliber talent. There's over 300 schools in Division I that compete in track and field. The only issue continues to be that most recruits want to go to the same 40 or 50 schools in the same conferences. And that is why those coaches get to choose whoever they want, really with no apology. The Virginia Showcase was an opportunity for the best track and field recruits in the nation to go out there and prove it. And for the most part, that is exactly what they did. We even had the national records to back it up. Just keep in mind that if you really want to be the best in the eyes of a college coach, especially at the highest levels of D1, they're not only recruiting this nation, they are recruiting all of them. You can't just be the best in the entire nation because you're no longer only competing with them. College coaches don't care that much where the talent is. They just want to know how to find it. Hopefully, a lot of it. And I'm talking Olympic caliber. And they will go all over the world just to find those athletes. But thanks to the Virginia Showcase, we now know that at least some of them are right here at the high school level. If you actually made it all the way to the end of this video, I do have to admit that thank you doesn't do it justice anymore, because you are a real one. And if you want more from me beyond this video, on SCArecruiting.com, you can get a ton of resources, like my free recruiting guide, online courses, and much more, including the option to meet with me one-on-one, where my specialty is helping you figure out which schools might actually be the best fit for you. And if nothing else, and you really just want to see more content like this, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.